too, right? So like Bunny Hopper and Casey will practice together, and Thijs and RDU will practice together, or whatever the matchups dictate is the right way to do it. So with the practice group split up, obviously Thijs has to make some kind of read on RDU, and he does have probably the best possible information out of any player in the world as to what RDU's habits and likes and dislikes are, right? So I think it's possible this could be a read-based call from Thijs as well.
Yeah, and also for the extra points of just bragging rights between teammates, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, the teammates, they both want each other to win and do well, that is without a doubt. But it's always nice when you can be like, oh yeah, but I dumpstered you in Grandmasters, that season, right?
Yep.
So it's always nice to, maybe you don't have to say it, but to have the ability to throw it out there if you need to win an argument in some way. So it's always a nice little extra ammunition there. It does sound like the players are just about getting ready to go into their first game, and Subtle, let the craziness begin. It's going to be a Mage Mirror.
Oh, not only is it going to be a Mage Mirror, it's going to be a nutty Mage Mirror right off the bat, because look at these opening hands. Apprentices and evocations in both hands, but Thijs throws his away, as does RDU, looking for that smoother early curve and looking perhaps to preserve some sanity of the commentators.
I don't believe any player has any regards for our sanity ever, but we'll see how this one plays out. Double apprentice for both players now? Okay.
Hello?
I was waiting for that.
All in due time.
Indeed.
I mean, the font of power actually looks pretty good to me. The Icicle is a good response to RDU having, the strong early tempo turn, even if it's just 2-mana killer thing and doesn't get to have the card draw, of course. But I was just looking at font of power there for a second.
Yeah, it was always going to be missiles or the Icicle to me. I was trying to convince myself that the Icicle was a good idea, because certainly I think one of the ways that Thijs can lose with this hand is that RDU just sticks some spell damage minions and curves into Cram Session, right? Because Thijs' hand is very slow right now. It doesn't really achieve anything. So taking ways to deal with the early minions was premium there for me. I was just trying to work out whether Arcane Missiles or Icicle was more likely to interact favorably with the spell damage minions. Obviously, Icicle kills Solarian straight up, which is great. But if a 1/3 comes down, which of those two cards would you rather have? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I excuse me, sorry. I think for me it was just always about, well, what does Thijs' hand do even for the foreseeable future? Maybe just an additional minion might make it look a little bit cleaner. We get Shambhala here. The old tempo Shambhala. What a play.
RDU's just in. No messing about. Arcane Breath, clear the minion, coin the Cyclone, refill, try and get some of those resource options for 1 mana here. Font of Power, Primordial Studies, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh. Now, I don't know about you, Sol, but I really like Wormweaver. I don't know if it's the pick, but I'm just letting you know I like the card.
I'm okay with it there, actually. I think next turn you have Incanters flow into 1 Thief and then try and find something to do on that turn. You know that Thijs is likely to have a reactive turn here because he has to. He's kind of obligated to have a reactive turn. So I kind of liked just curving the Incanters flow 1 Thief this turn into Wormweaver on the following turn, just pushing your curve that way. We'll see, though.
Yeah, it's mainly for me that I'm not really sure what the response to a Wormweaver is in this situation, right? Thijs has no board, at least for now. You can expect at least your minions to do some work this turn. So, I'm not really sure what the answer is, but I'm sure what the pick is in that one. No questions there, Subtle. That is the evocation every day of the week.
And despite not wanting it in his opening hand alongside the Apprentice, he certainly does want it here off the 1 Thief. And he's been rewarded, I will say, now for not having another clunky option in his hand with the Wormweaver, because it does give him the ability to just go in as early as next turn if he wants to.
Hand is just looking good, right? The evocation gives RDU filler turns, and potentially very powerful turns, of course. But even if if the game does slow down a little bit even after that, he has Deep Freeze.
I wonder what's happening. Wait, RDU just goes anyway? Okay, fine. Like, this is obviously a lab partner Raz setup, right? The fact that all of the minions have just been pinged down to 2 HP, and RDU just goes ahead and adds another premium 2 HP minion to the board as well. Like, this feels somewhat suspect to me, because he's about to get tempo blown out of this game if he doesn't find something pretty insane to do with this this evocation.
This evocation kind of sucks as well. There's arcane intellect, and I guess you'd Ray of Frost something just to get the second one in hand. That's about it. I'm a fan of Conjurer's Corner 2 drop or something, but I don't think it's the play this time.
Making room for the AI.
Again.
Finds evocation again. Now he's just going to be behind. It's an interesting choice, right? Because like I feel like it was a pretty clear setup. I can see the hand, so maybe it isn't, but I think it was a fairly clear read to make of what was happening. And you could have just like waited for this to happen, just tried to do like something else, and then used your apprentice evocation turn to react to this tempo swing instead of getting caught up in it.
I think for RD...
Oh!
Okay. I think for RDU, it was probably a difficult sell to just effectively pass.
Do nothing. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the issue, right? And rightly or wrongly, I think that's just the issue he had. This is a big deal, though. Gets the giant down and gets to potentially kill off this Raz if things go a little bit smoother than last turn.
Yes.
Which they do. He does have 2 arcane breaths there, I think. Unless my eyes deceive me.
Yeah, seems kind of mandatory here. He can't just leave Raz up.
And then what? Font of Power into the Cyclone? It's actually pretty okay. What if it's just Caligos?
I think it's Firebrand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just something to do next turn, right? Because that's what he needs. He has a turn 8, but he doesn't have a turn 7 right now. So he plays the Cyclone.
Spells, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He gets Cyclone, and he gets theoretically some spells that he can just play with Firebrand next turn, right? So this feels pretty powerful.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Well, we all know what this magic trick's going to be.
I mean, he needs it to be. Thijs is kind of desperate right now.
Okay, we all know what this arcane intellect's going to be.
Oh, I wanted to One Thief. Was I wrong?
Okay, we all know what this One Thief is going to be. Oh, come on! 3 times?
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, he cut into his options so hard by Arcane Intellecting before the One Thief. If he'd have gone One Thief earlier, like Polymorph was an option, Fireball was an option, all of these tools were things he could throw out. Now he has to kind of rely on this Devolving Missile somewhat, and yep.
Look at RDU, he loves it. Oh my.
You don't pick the ones.
Oh, okay.
Yep, play
Something.
that. No ambitious Pyroblast there? Okay, fair enough.
Wait. He's not putting this to face?
You're burned. Turn it up.
Yo!
Okay. One good, one bad. Just get the 6/6 from the Learn Draconic as well, and now Thijs has to perform some miracles to dig himself out of this, and that is not undoable because it is mage. But at least with this hand, it's more of a stall tactic for now.
Indeed.
He doesn't even have a prime in the deck, does he?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, he didn't play anything early game, right?
Nope. Yeah, Natural Solarian's still in there, and I don't think he's generated one, so...
Probably wanted a Deathwing, honestly, at this point.
It's very nearly Deathwing territory, isn't it?
Yeah. Nothing really adds up for Thijs. He has to make a decision whether he goes a little bit slower, uses Ray of Frost, and maybe just squeezes in the ice barrier as well, just to give him some time. But that time is not going to last forever. It does mean he's pretty much on something big happening next turn.
Yeah, this combustion is really nice, though. Getting the 7 overkill on both sides. He's able
I
to...
do often forget how insane Azure Explorer is.
Yes.
What? It's just a 5/8.
And it's just 0 mana 8/8 Conjurer's Calling yet again. And those are insane. That's 6 more to face guaranteed from this Troublemaker to trade in.
And there's no Prime? There's no Prime to get off the top for Thijs. He does now have his Giant and Conjurer's Calling for himself, though. What would he even need?
Ice Barrier, Giant, Conj. I'm not sure what the out is.
Bat ahead.
I don't think it's that. Care of the Firebrand, but there is still 16 left on board, and Thijs is at 16 total with that Ice Barrier.
It says explode!
And now he's got spell damage!
RDU gets the news that it is Ice Barrier, pushes the 16, ends game number 1, and it was another pretty dominant performance. A little slower, a little more gradual than we saw in the first series from Boston, but still a largely one-sided affair. I think if there's anything to really break down, it was that turn from Thijs, which involved the missed devolving missiles. Because there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes there. I don't think anything strictly wrong happened, but I think some things that might have been suboptimal happened. Like casting the AI first, I'm not sure about. Also not killing the 1/1 to guarantee or killing the small minion to guarantee the devolving missiles on the larger minion, which I actually think was a deliberate ploy on Thijs' part because he wanted to use the combustion on the small minion to deal the damage
to push the damage over,
deal the damage to the bigger minion after the devolving missiles happen. Whether that's right to go for, I'm not entirely sure. There was probably a better way to sequence all the things that Thijs did that turn, but that's kind of the complexity of the deck, is that you're going to open like 15 boxes in one turn sometimes, and you have to open them in the exact right order or you lose. And sometimes, knowing what that order is very, very difficult.
I think for me in that last game, it was really just about, or it really highlighted why players do keep cram sessions sometimes, because we saw both players up until a point, obviously RDU started getting his resources going. It took them both a while to actually really get going, and it was because of the lack of card draw that both of them really had access to for most of the game, especially on Thijs' end. So I think you start to see more and more why players are putting a little bit more emphasis on card draw, at least in the early mulligans there. But that was just our game number 1 between these two players. There's plenty more where that came from, but we are going to go to a quick break while we get them ready for game number 2. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Thijs versus RDU is continuing here on the Hearthstone Grandmasters European region. Is our match number 2 of 5 of the day, and a lot on the line for all of these players today and of course tomorrow as we end the week of the round robin and end the round robin phase of Grandmaster Season 2 this year. So far we just had RDU take down Thijs in a mage mirror and in a pretty dominant fashion as well. So I know we were talking about some of the different options RDU had throughout that game, but I think overall just a solid performance on his side.
Yeah, and certainly options that Thijs had as well. I think there was one window where RDU kind of willingly played into the Raz setup from Thijs that maybe could have got Thijs out of it. And then after that, there was the one turn where he just kind of had to frantically search for removal on the Giant, which just ended up going very, very wrong. But I'm not sure if Thijs made good decisions on those turns, but I think with RDU then immediately just drawing out the other Giant and still having Conjurer's Calling and everything that came after the fact anyway, I'm not sure whether it would have ended up making a difference anyway.
Well, we may be on for a series of mirrors, Sottle, because we are going into a Demon Hunter mirror in our game number 2, and one I'm excited for, honestly. I think I like this mirror more than most people from what I've seen. I don't think that many people actually enjoy the mirror, but I like it a lot, and I think that the different tech cards that both players have could make a big splash here. RDU has a Horde Pillager, which might help out, actually, if the game does go into one of those more grindy games where you both have Eldrazi Warblades kind of at the same time, so you end up, each person heals back up tons like a couple of times throughout the game. The Horde Pillager might help out a little bit, but other than that, a fairly standard list from RDU, whereas Thijs does have that Mag Therodon and the I-Beam. So I'm excited to see if that makes much of an impact and has one less Gladebound Adept than RDU.
Slightly unfortunate looking opening hand for RDU. This is one of many reasons, honestly, why I don't particularly like Horde Pillager in the deck. It's only very specific hands where it feels like it helps out, because this hand already has too many weapon swings in it, right? If there were such a thing. And you could argue, like, well, I want to put Horde Pillager in my deck just to make sure I'm drawing enough weapons. Like, Horde Pillager has to very specifically be the second weapon that you draw to actually be effective, right? Because if it's the first one, it does nothing. So it doesn't even really help that much with your consistency of drawing a weapon. And I think more often than not, you get into these kinds of positions where it just clogs up your hand with extra weapon swings. Not to mention that in some matchups, getting back a 2-2 weapon just isn't that exciting. 4/4 summon a 2/2 weapon, like, that sounds like a pretty bad card to me in a lot of situations.
The 2/2 weapon does have lifesteal, though, so there is some upside. But yeah, I do agree. Sometimes it can be clunky. It's for other matchups, let's be honest, right? Like, it's very good in Priest, from what I've played of it at least. But it's definitely not really for the mirror. You normally want to be a little bit more proactive here. And I'm wondering already, maybe not this... Oh, okay. I was going to say, maybe not this turn because of the weapon, but maybe next turn. Now, probably not because of the Gladebound, but I do think we are likely to see this Consume Magic used when RDU has spare mana just to cycle, because there aren't that many targets in this mirror that, if any, honestly, that you're bothered about actually silencing.
Yeah, I agree. I think just getting this cycled is pretty important, but again, as you said, only really when RDU runs out of things to do, which is the right-hand side of his hand is treating him very well right now.
Thijs as well does have... He has a lot of damage and a lot of very steady and consistent damage. He's just going to watch out for the Eldrazi Warblades, because what he doesn't want to do is go, okay, Lapidary, Gladebound, it gets Blade Danced, and then RDU heals up to full. Then you're like, oh, this is a bit of a problem. So it gets a little bit tricky just to manage these minions.
He's actually just going to Hero Power and re-equip. I like this. I don't really see too much value here in Gladebounding the face. He doesn't have a clean just race plan set up right now. And this creates a world where potentially he might be able to break serve in the game of Gladebound tennis, right? If Thijs' play here just ends up being Gladebound the 4-2, RDU will end up winning that exchange by being able to Gladebound right back on the following turn.
That's the main difference, right? Gladebound has the ability to target minions. Lapidary does, but it involves your face targeting them and not a battlecry. Yep. So yeah, definitely more worthwhile here. And RDU... He's going to get the payoff now, actually. Just puts the minion down. It's big enough to warrant the Gladebound. And now he's just going to be able to stick his own Gladebound on the board and still have good follow-up with that skull in his hand for a little bit later, too.
Yep. Very, very big deal. Oh! Okay. The mag is lining up. There is a Blade Dance in hand that Thijs can use to activate this at some point, but he doesn't have the clean answer with the Shard Shatter Mystic.
I mean, this looks really good. If he goes Warblades this turn, maybe plays the 1/3 as well, just sets up the weapon, and he can just go Mag Therodon Blade Dance next turn.
That's true. How many extra minions could RDU add to the board in that time?
I think realistically 1, maybe 2, but I don't think you're expecting tons, especially with the way this game's planned out, right?
Is that already too many, though? Because this is the other thing I was looking at, right? It's just winning the board right now with the 5/5 instead. It does use up your Blade Dance, which is your Mag Therodon activator, but maybe that's just what you have to do in this position, because it does get a little bit scary. If there's 5 minions on board, that might just be too much for you to reliably interact with the Mag Therodon Blade Dance on the following turn.
Yeah, you only ever need it to hit 2 of those, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, RDU does have 1 too many weapons, I guess, at least if he wants to win in the short term.
Right.
But this is a little bit tricky now. Without a Blade Dance of his own, he has to look at this Lapidary and fear it, honestly. Maybe he does have to go for the draw with the Panthera and like hunt for a Blade Dance here. Would be huge.
Ooh, Gladebound number 2 is ugly. There's just nothing for RDU to spend his mana on now this turn.
What?
Time grows short.
What if he just has to go Warblades and swing?
And he has Warblades plus Lapidary next turn, but I guess since he didn't
Yeah,
find an answer, he just kind of has to.
He might not have a next turn is the big problem, right? Like that's if he doesn't gain the
Yikes.
heal now.
Yeah, it sucks.
Oh, twin slice from Thijs, sorry.
That's 14 maximum this turn, I believe.
Yep. So I think what he should look at here is going like
I grow
Warblades.
patient.
Oh no. He plays Lapidary this turn, right?
Does he feel
trade
safe
this
at 13?
5/5.
That's the question.
I think he can trade the 5/5. If he goes Lapidary and then like Hero Power X, or even like the with the twin slices, and then next turn he has Kane, Aldraki, and then Hero
What if
Power
he-
or second slice, depending on how he goes.
What if you Kane trade and just Warblades the face this turn? Push 7 and then have
5, 7.
Lapidary, Twin Slice,
Okay.
Twin Slice, Hero Power on the following turn?
Short.
Yeah, okay. I can see that.
Feels like the most secure. Just that 2 extra healing might just change your break point
Yeah.
coming back the other way from your opponent.
Yeah, you're right. You know what I'm doing? I'm falling into the trap of getting used to playing against other things where Kane is normally the last thing you want to play for guaranteed lethal, but it's not relevant in Demon Hunter, right? So I think, yeah, I'm with you on this. I actually think this is right.
This is fine. Like, any play that involves the Warblades coming down this turn, I think is fine. If you want to just push this 7, and leave up the 2/3, I guess this nets you 5 healing as opposed to the 4 that killing the 2/3 and healing for 2 would, but you also just have a Kane in your hand, so yeah, sure. Seems fine as
The
well.
only off-putting thing about this play was he can't Lapidary Kane next turn.
Right, right.
That's the only like finicky thing, right?
Sure. Oh. Second Warblades now means that Thijs is very much able to go the distance. Kind of needs to be here since he doesn't have immediate lethal again this turn.
And that's what I meant with the earlier turn, right? Like, because these two cards, like these two burst damage with the Lapidary and Kane, they're just so clunky together. It's a little bit unfortunate. This is probably just going to be a swing and then re-equip the Warblades, open up his mana if he draws Skull, for example, so he can freely cast and not have to worry about re-equipping the blades. I think that's
Sure.
worth more than 1 damage right now.
It's 1 damage and 1 healing, though.
It's going to go up to
22?
what, 20? Yeah, 22. There's only, what, 5, 8?
Yeah,
That's asking a lot with no weapon equipped from RDU.
it is. It is. I agree.
That is generally what you look for in these number matches here. Like, do they already have a weapon equipped? No? Okay, then you should feel significantly safer.
All right, so it has to be Skull into second Warblades plus things.
Funnily enough, does he actually play the Spirit Jailer first? Normally you don't want to draw the soul shards or fragments with the skull, but I think in this instance RDU needs all the heal he can get.
Poor warlock.
It is not going to do it here.
Yeah. So on RDU's view, he could go... One Maker doesn't really get it. Oh, he could go... Oh, no, okay. So in his view, he could have gone Wand Maker, got the Companion, and rolled Shima.
Sure.
Which helps him there. And just traded a little bit differently. But yeah, I'm just going to set up as much damage on board. He knows that if there's any extra damage in hand, he's dead. But he's just setting up as much counter swing potential as possible. And Thijs has more than enough. Not only with Kayn, but even with that Twin Slice off the top. Game number 2. Going to go to Thijs.
Yeah, important one there for Thijs to square up the series. Neither of the techs that Thijs has in his deck actually came into play there. If anything, Magtheridon was an active downside, right? It's a card he drew that he just didn't play the entire game, therefore it may have been better served as something else. Second Glade Bounder deck there, Alterus maybe would have got played in a couple of positions. And we didn't see the I-Beam get drawn for the entire game, so neither of those techs that we really focused on at the start of the day ended up having a positive impact, at least for Thijs. But the big bulletin board point is that Thijs picked up the win in the Demon Hunter mirror, having lost the Mage mirror, which leaves us with Rogue potentially on both sides, and now Mage for Thijs, and still the Demon Hunter for RD.
Yeah, one final note, though, I will just add on, is I feel like the Magtheridon wasn't involved in that game through choice, to a certain extent, from Thijs, because he could have gone for it, right? He just chose to use the Blade Dance a little bit early, a little bit more safer fashion. But you are right, it is 1-1. It looks like our next game is going to be Demon Hunter again from RDU going up against Mystery Deck, because I don't actually see what Thijs has locked in just as of yet. But regardless, we might be seeing these matchups come down to Rogue and who can get the win on that side here. And it is going to be Rogue locked in against the Demon Hunter from Thijs in a very tricky matchup. Rogue has a ton of stuff to do, but does it have the time to do it against Demon Hunter?
Yeah, that's the question. And actually, it's why I think RDU's win in the Mage Mirror is a lot more important in the overall Conquest series than Thijs' win in the Demon Hunter Mirror was, right? Because both of these lineups are Rogue Mage, which means Demon Hunter is pretty well positioned overall and was probably always going to find a win in the series, which is why it makes perfect sense for RDU to now just queue up the Demon Hunter, because he knows he just has both of those matchups left to be able to try and pick a win up against. So if the Rogue is going to get out of this one alive, it does rely on getting big threats early. And there's certain things that you can do as the Demon Hunter to play around early questing adventurers, for example. Just being able to deal with like those 4-4, 5-5 breakpoints early on that they will come down as if they're played in the early game. And actually, both of the cards that are most useful for doing that are Marrow Slicer and Soul Shear. And RDU now has both.
I'd even had Twin Slice, right? I've doubled Twin Slice, Second Slice to fair few Edwin Van Cleaves in my time just to kill them off early on. So
sure.
all the answers, in the world there for RDU. Thijs, though, didn't get a bad pull off the Pharaoh Cat, actually, and even Ambush can be a bit of a pain.
Instantly activated Vendetta and the huge untargetable Taunt with Reborn coming down as well. Now there's questing with that active Vendetta as well. A plan is slowly coming together here for Thijs.
Did you like that Twin Slice for the Pharaoh Cat there?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I feel like with his hand, he would have been allowed to keep it.
Do you know why I liked it, Raven? He spent his mana.
He could have just hero-powered Face Sol. It's doable.
That is fair, yeah. But honestly, like, I think this matchup, one of the ways you can really get obstructed is if they do just vomit this wide board everywhere. You know, they play like Miscreant, Pharaoh Cat, you know, Micro Mummy comes off the Pharaoh Cat, and suddenly there's like these 4 or 5 small minions. If you don't have Shard Shatter Mystic in your hand, you are kind of obligated to keep clearing those small minions up. so that you can theoretically blade dance the bigger minions when they come down later on, because if the board's too wide, you don't really have any way of interacting with it. So I like RDU just spending at least the first few turns here, just making sure the board doesn't snowball too much.
Yeah, I think for me, because there was, excuse me, there was Soulshare and the Eldraki Warblades, I personally think that was enough to deal with it, even if it was a little bit slower. Because my worry is, if you need to deal with big single minions, or blade dance them or whatever, do you maybe not even need the twin slice to actually get your weapon or damage high enough to make that effective? So just interesting to see a little bit more aggressive response from RDU, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me wouldn't even hate like swing and then just play the Horde Pillager again. Make a minion that can test the Miscreant, get another Eldraki Warblades active, like, seems fine.
As for secrets as well, right, which is important because he didn't want to do anything particularly backbreaking into dirty tricks or plagiarize there, so I think Horde Pillager was the play that was the best against the most secrets. I think Ambush actually worked out the worst for him in this scenario, but it's still really not that bad.
Well, either the 4/2 dies to the ambush token, fine, you've traded it for a secret and got a weapon, or something else happened and you can just hero power down the 2/3 anyway. So yeah, I think it worked out very, very well. But here comes the questing adventurer from Thijs, which is probably stage 1, and for Thijs' hopes, I imagine, the first and final stage of his plan. Make a big quest adventurer and win.
Insta Ethereal Lackey. Yup!
Whoa.
That's why you play the Ethereal Lackey there.
So is that
might look
Vendetta as well?
tempting to just Witchy Lackey the Miscreant instead, because that's obviously such a huge upgrade on average, but yeah, the potential blowout from the Spell Lackey instead is just so worth it.
No consume magic, at least for now, in RDU's hand. Let's see it come off the... Was it actually off the top?
No.
Oh, I saw something purple. Again, that's just a Demon Hunter card.
It is indeed, yeah.
So now, a little bit more difficult to deal with. And I really like the Vendetta use here, because these 4 minions are a serious problem for Blade Dance, because the AA is so big, he can't trade first, then Blade Dance.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the weapon, you know, like the potential damage goes small. I guess he has 2 swings, so it's fine, but let's just make it more and more awkward for RDU. Soulshare.
Coin Kane.
Oh.
Yep. And RDU right now doesn't have a full picture on how important that Kane might actually be to end the game. But he might just be formulating it because he knows the Vendetta is active, and he knows that it's was activated by the Pharaoh Cat cards there, right? Because there's no other cards in hand that would have been activating it.
Correct.
So suddenly, Winged Guardian has to be a card on your mind, because there really aren't that many.
I think he's regretting the Kane now. Look at that 3/9.
This one just looks kind of over, Raven.
But this is why I was mentioning about Twin Slice earlier on. That's one of the cards that helps you stack up damage to kill a big Edwin or a big Questing.
Yeah.
Because it was used up. He didn't have the ability to kill it in a clean fashion.
I mean, he'd also be at like 5 by now if he didn't kill those 2 minions that he killed at the time. Yep.
Well,
yep.
He's not even seen the second one yet.
He probably
Might not
won't
even see the second one, but still, yeah.
Yeah. Chaos Strike now going to proc the dirty tricks as well.
Pretty much, yeah, he pretty much needed thingy at that point. I mean, it was unlikely regardless, but I think he just did need that shard chatter by that point, right?
Yep.
He just needed something to clear away all the minions, but really it was just that questing soaking up so many resources for RDU, and he didn't even clear the board at that point, right? It was just all in just to kill the questing. Everything still stuck around, and of course, it helped that the generation from Thijs, were some pretty powerful minions in that exact matchup with the Wind Guardians. So looking pretty good there for Thijs, and taking a pretty surprisingly easy victory, I guess, with that rogue against Demon Hunter. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, it can happen. Obviously, big Edwin, big questing are the routes to victory. And sometimes the matchup can be deceptive because the game's rogue wins. It looks so easy, right? You just get one big minion down, the Demon Hunter can't deal with it, you hit them a couple of times, they're dead. The problem is that doesn't really happen with that high regularity.
Right.
The Edwin can be huge early, but if the questing comes down early, there's normally one turn where it's a 4-4 or a 5-5, and then suddenly like Soul Shear Hero Power or Marrow Slicer, Twin Slice, whatever it needs to be, can kind of deal with that 4 to 6 range, and then the questing's dead and the Demon Hunter can move on. But yeah, I think that game, there was a lack of shard shatter for sure, which I think is what's causing the debate between us about killing the early minions as well, right? Because if there was a shard shatter in the opening hand,
Sure.
absolutely I would not be twin slicing small minions in the early game. I'd just happily wait and then blast them all away with the shard shatter. But when that card isn't there, I do think you have to pay a little bit of attention to the board with the resources. But again, I think we're in that situation where we can quibble over the plays if we want to. Don't think it mattered either way. I think RDU was just kind of dead to the way things panned out that game.
I mean, let's pretend he kills it, right? Fast forward, there's 2 Winged Guardians on the board.
Yeah.
Like, what's next at that point, right? So we are going to be moving on to our game number 4, of course, and Thijs just has his mage left now, and he's going to be going up, at least initially, against RDU's Demon Hunter. So again, one of those decent matchups for Demon Hunter, and one that if Thijs wins, he's going to be looking in a much safer spot in that Division A, being able to sort of hang with the rest of the group, right, on those 3 wins, still needing that last one to keep up. So big game for Thijs, big match for Thijs, and we're going to see it come down to this. Mage versus Demon Hunter.
Yeah, at least very temporarily, he could end up as high as 3rd or 4th here, just the way the tiebreakers break down, because obviously he would then tie 4 other players on 3 wins, but he'd pick up the huge boost to his tiebreaker 2 of having beaten RDU, who's top of the table, with 4 wins under his belt. So his tiebreaker 2 would go through the roof as well. So difference between victory and defeat here, huge for Thijs. But also currently, RDU, even though he's 1-2 down in the series, obviously he's unfavored from this position, but not that unfavored, because his 2 remaining matchups are Demon Hunter against Mage, which is a favorable, and Rogue against Mage, which is also a favorable. So he does have 2 good matchups left to win, but you know, even if you have 2 60%ers, you're unfavored to win them both back to back.
Right. And Mage can always get a win somewhere, right?
Yeah.
We know this. Early discover for Thijs, and although there was some, I guess, stat considerations there with the minion he takes, because the Ogre is just significantly bigger, and the Azure Explorer is just the better card. So I do like Thijs going for that and allow him to maybe keep rolling with some dragons here.
Yeah, certainly with Cram Session in hand already, having the double spell damage on 1 card is pretty appealing.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Job done.
Thijs looks like he's just going to drop the Cram Session here for 2, though, which is absolutely fine. 2 Mana Cyclones in this hand is a little bit awkward.
I mean, to extent, it's too many, isn't it? Because his hand doesn't really play nice with either of them.
No. Thijs doesn't
potential
find...
that he just goes like Magic Trick Cyclone next turn just for a minion.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is like depending on what he draws next turn, we might be looking at a Magic Trick into Cyclone next turn, or like a Ray Cyclone on 4 mana instead, just to get one of them out of his hand, generate some cards at least to potentially make that giant cheaper.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. Very possible as well.
He can do it.
Ice Barrier.
Yep.
Magic Trick again. These are kind of trash.
Yeah, weirdly enough, although Nova seems like it should be good because it stops you being hit in the face, paying 3 mana for generally stopping 1, maybe 2 minions isn't actually good enough against Demon Hunter, right? Like, in other matchups, sure, but not against Demon Hunter.
Worth noting on the previous turn from RDU as well that he turned down a pretty easy-looking Warblades on curve to deal with the Solarian, just to drop the Consume Magic instead and use Twin Slice to be able to take care of it. Just really, really valuing using the Consume Magic, both for his game plan and, of course, for denying the Prime in Thijs' deck.
He didn't draw with it, though, right?
No.
Was it from the middle? I think it was from the middle.
It's from the middle, yeah.
I grow impatient.
Does just have Aldraki Warblades here. He does have the slightly different play of Hero Power trade, and then Aldraki Warblades to retain the swings, which I think is also fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't really need the health right now.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I like that.
He's gonna take the damage. Oh, okay. I generally think keeping hold of the charge is useful because there are so many minions that are worth killing with that. And Thijs,
That's
lock
the
it in,
card!
friend.
I'm upset that things aren't already happening.
Well, yeah.
All in due time.
Just like you.
No! Not all in due time! 20 seconds ago!
I want it now. It's only 3 spells, right? Which I think was what caused Thijs to pause. Was, do I really want to do this with only 3 spell payoff? Obviously, there's the Cyclone, which can get more, but as a 3 total is not fantastic normally, but it's probably just needed with nothing else to do.
Only 3 spells, he says.
You know
Imagine.
what I mean. One of those spells was not Evocation, so okay, that's where I draw the line.
That's a good point.
Oh, no Shard Shatter. And this Lapidary, it's probably crying right now as it sees its number 1 enemy, a mirror image.
You don't pick the one, see?
Okay,
Burn away.
that's actually a pretty useful card in this spot. It's not going to stop Thijs from having a completely insane turn, because he can still just play Ice Barrier Mana Giant this turn.
And look how easy to say now, obviously, but look how little this Aldraki Warblades has actually done this game. Like, even if it had an extra charge, you could see some light at the end of the tunnel, but this is tough.
Yep.
How do you decide whether you even should swing?
Gotta be Barrier Giant, right? No other play.
It's too powerful.
Love it.
It's just too powerful. You're already ahead. You can pretty much tell that RDU has an unfun hand right now. So yeah,
Yes.
I think you definitely just put your foot down, and that was the pickup he needed last turn.
Oh, yeah. Gives him some hope, though. Because it does mean the board clear.
Clear, yeah. And I believe the militia is still on 3 fragments.
Yes. Yep.
Which is more than reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if he doesn't draw one next turn. That is a solid refill, but again. So is this like Firebrand Vaporized Giant?
Firebrand Vaporized Giant. Yeah. I like that.
Just put stuff on the board, another secret for RDU to consider, although militia, with what he'll want it or need it to do to respond, isn't overly affected by that secret unless it's exactly entity, I guess. But again, just keep pounding the power on, right? He, as your explorer, sorry, has the value base covered, right? You can probably get a solid dragon from it.
Oh! The fragment draw, Raven! There's
Okay, well,
only
that's
2
bad.
left now! What's 2 times 3 again?
Not 8. That's all I know.
Oh, that's brutal. I was about to say, this, like, weirdly would have worked out better for Thijs if he'd had a slow turn here, and then RDU had just jammed the militia on board,
So
and just left it all there, and then Thijs goes, like, Flame Strike Giant or something. Like, that actually would have worked out weirdly better for Thijs. That was true up until RDU drew a Soul Fragment off the top. Now he looks dead.
I grow
Here's my question.
impatient.
Does he just Panthara this turn? Does he need more?
I mean, what are the odds that you draw more soul fragments instead of less if you start drawing cards?
But what if he just doesn't need soul fragments? What if he just doesn't need, like, for it not to be soul fragments? What if he just needs other cards?
I mean, what other cards?
I don't know. Just other cards.
This plan is too vague, Raven. I can't get on board with it.
Okay, I'll work on it for next time. Really refine the plan of draw good cards? Is that
Yeah.
more refined?
Yeah. This is a pretty nice looking devolving missiles. Take a 7-drop down to a 4-drop. Ah, does it really get that much smaller though? I guess not sometimes. It's awkward.
That description was too vague, Sol. You said, I guess not sometimes. I don't know if that means it's going to or not.
Yeah, so the idea is that you want to shrink the militia to the point where it doesn't challenge your giant, so then your giant can go face, right? But since it's only
Probably
devolving...
just does.
Wow. He's not even going to trade the 3/3 first? Like... What?
Hey, now he can ping and go face with him.
Sure.
He saves his 3/4.
Like... But I mean, okay, so obviously the world where it goes left 3 times is unrealistic, but that's a 7-drop. So the world where it goes right once is
Gets
pretty
buffed.
realistic there. And then you, like, buff it into a 6-drop. Yeah, like, that could just be a Sunwalker or something at that point. Like, that seems kind of sketchy from Thijs's point.
And this turn is actually starting to recover a little bit for RDU. Marrow Slicer, Hero Power, Mana Feeder. Seems pretty good here. I guess he can Hero Power, Mana Feeder. No, I think he probably wants to draw the fragments to heal up. Does he feel he needs to? Maybe not. Carrying on with this vague plan, Sol.
Yeah, you're never going to win this fight of calling each other out for being too vague, Raven. I'm just warning you now. It doesn't end well for you.
It's because I like to just talk through my actual thought pattern sometimes, which is you know, people are indecisive about things.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
It's going to take down the Azure Explorer, which of course makes sense because the spell damage being the threat that it is.
One
Now
Maker's
Chaos Strike.
insane. Arcane Breath! Oh, Arcane Breath is the absolute turbo nuts here. Okay.
He's kind of stuck here, isn't he? There's nothing to devolve. He already has a Vaporize. Rolling Fireball?
I mean, you could take Devolving Missiles just to cycle it into another Mana Cyclone card here.
All in due time.
There's no... Is there a minion?
It's still a 2/1, yeah.
Oh, there's still... Yeah. I thought it was dead. Yeah, okay. 100% sure then, yeah. I like it. I thought the Panthera had died.
Whoa, it hit the same one 3 times! Insane.
What are the odds?
Oh, mirror image again!
It's pretty sick. You can just slowly but surely beat RDU up right now.
Right. Minions protected, plays around Blade Dance to an extent here as well, by just adding the 2 extra minions to the board, so he gets to keep some pressure online. Pretty strong. Fragments in, Chaos Strike for Blade Dance now, potentially. Could get the clear. Ooh.
Oh. Mirror
Shout
images
chatter.
are still a pain, though. Can't put that 1/1 into the 3/4.
Yeah, indeed.
He just has to, right? He needs to clear these up, and this weapon needs to have more impact than killing a mirror image, so decision made as far as I'm concerned.
Yikes. Magic Trick's fine. At first, in case you get evocation, you're not necessarily committed to dropping the Crimson Hothead just yet. Almost certainly going to happen, but just in case you hit the evocation, you might play that instead. Now you can just drop this and Icicle? No! Oh, he's going to Arcane Explosion instead, okay.
Wants card draw, right?
That's
wants to prioritize card draw over it, and I think you're not expecting Arcane Explosion to do anything else than maybe kill 1 minion this game anyway, so...
That's fair.
Oh, okay. Weapon plus Lapidary.
Yep.
This means he's going to be able to get through this 4/6 regardless, and does put 2 relatively sized minions on the board.
It does. Flamestrike will be able to answer them, though, but this is now getting incredibly scrappy.
I grow impatient.
And a lot of Thijs's best resources have been used up already, whereas RDU still has many good ones to come.
I mean, he's only 1 skull away from this game really looking different, because
Exactly.
if he could just draw through, both of these secrets aren't counterspell, so he has the freedom to. Big deal.
Such a
It's
beauty.
not the
he
life
wanted-
steal,
yeah.
though.
He really wanted the Warblades.
And I think right now, Thijs's read is on burn damage from hand. He's going to get the news that he's actually alive here. There's no Fireball, no Pyroblast. The card that's been held all this time is a Flame Strike, which is still pretty bad for him, don't get me wrong, but he is at least alive, gets to fight another day here. Like I said, I think on average he draws the better card each turn if this is going to be top deck wars.
Yeah, I think the average draw is better, but the potential pop-off draw is actually better for Thijs, right?
Yes.
Like, the best draw is probably just better for Thijs, naturally because of health differences as well.
That's it. That's the one.
Okay,
You found
I
it.
didn't say.
That's the best draw.
Have studied.
Any freeze? No freeze. I mean, I guess technically Blizzard, but
Yeah, I mean, he magic tricks first, right? Or intellects and so on. I think he can he can do other things first, at least to just start. I mean, he has polymorph, which is deals.
He
with
also
the minion,
has.
right?
I don't think he actually cares about the minion because he has Vaporize up right now. So I think he's just gonna
true.
amass. He's just gonna amass resources here.
Yep, I like it. I think either way, he plays Magic Trick and Arcane Intellect, right? Which are the 2
Yes.
things he needs to do this turn. And
Ray
yeah,
of Frost.
both.
There it is.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Oh, cram set. I didn't even see the cram session, but yeah,
Mhm.
sure. Just draw cards. That's all he wants.
Yep. Perfect.
And if this isn't Skull,
Yikes.
worst draw in his deck.
Vaporize down. Ice Barrier
Ice
number 2
Barrier it is.
down. Ties back at 30.
Just one of those games. It doesn't happen too often, honestly, with Demon Hunter now, with most of the builds. But just running this dry is pretty rough for Thijs.
Oh,
That's all.
you just make the
Down
spell
to just
damage
making
board.
noises.
Come on. Yep. Lab. Wait. Wasn't it just Lab Partner again? Then you could play all 3 of them? Does this Solarian do anything?
He didn't have a prime, and maybe he doesn't feel comfortable with not having access to a prime.
Okay.
So he's like, you know what? I want it. He gets silenced early on.
I feel like pushing the extra damage there when you just have Arcane Missiles in your hand, potentially with the Violet Spellwing, would end up being more important. I guess if the minion sticks, it's more damage that way anyway. Who knows?
Well, yeah, it's more damage, and also both of these minions are must kill, which would require a very specific combo of cards.
Yep.
Would it have to be like exactly Twin Slice number 2 and Play Dance? Like, it's just not gonna happen.
That literally has to be lethal. I'm not even going to count it. Oh, it's lethal the really boring way. Okay, never mind.
Lame.
I was doing like Ray of Frost, the Gladebound, play the Spellwing, ping the Spellwing, Arcane Missiles the face, but yeah, he didn't need any of that nonsense.
He did not, but Thijs did need that win, and you can see how happy he is with that one. The thumbs up, shaking it off. He did what he needed to do today, which was beat RDU, and that means Thijs is now in the mix. It's not just as simple as, okay, who's not got 3 wins in Division A? Things have changed quite dramatically at this point, and we'll obviously have an update on how everything looks shortly, but for now, must win there for Thijs, getting much more comfortable. Whereas RDU did take the loss and again puts his first place up for debate going forward, but I think not detrimental to RDU's playoff plans.
No, absolutely not. He's at the 4-win mark already. Like I said, he was really, really pushing for that top 2 spot to get the extra seeding through the playoffs bracket, which would be a huge deal for him. Because again, we talked at length at the beginning of this series about how much it still means for RDU to be able to make it to a world championship. But Thijs started that match, I believe, with 6 points in his tiebreaker 2, which is the sum of the victories of all the players you've beaten. So having now beaten Thijs, he jumps up to 10, picking up an extra 4 wins onto his tiebreaker 2 score, which actually ties him with Bly's for the best overall tiebreakers in the division right now, while putting himself back into that mix with the 3-win club, which basically everyone is on now apart from Psycho and RDU. So absolutely everything still to play for. But as I mentioned right in the intro, if that result went that way, we have to start thinking about Casey, because Casey now has a problem because he's playing a real unfavorable, having Bomb Warrior in his lineup and facing down the anti-Bomb Warrior strategy from Yala.
Right.